So we are here to nerd out with you about data, which is very exciting. My name is Clarissa Boyajian. I work with KYCC, and I run our database. We have Planet Geo as a database. Rachel O'Leary is here from City Plants. They have EcoLayers, which is a custom-built database that she's going to be talking about. We also have Kalli Legakes. Sorry. She's from the Imperial Valley Urban Forest. She works with Planet Geo as well. And then Torin Dunnavant, who is going to be speaking about Salesforce, so a non-geospatial database that he's using from Sacramento Tree Foundation. And we, go on to the, oops, where did the, there. We're going to do a quick to start 4 corners exercise so that we can see as a whole group where we are in terms of what databases we're using, how comfortable we are using them. But we think that we're here to talk about databases because we think that they're super important in terms of being able to expand what we can do as organizations, to better tell stories about what work we are doing, to be more efficient, to track the work we're doing in a way that can help us get more money, to do more work. And there's a variety of things that you can track through these systems. You can be tracking people, donors, relationships, recruitments. You can also be tracking your tree planting, using it for strategic planning, using it for grant reporting, being able to talk about ecosystem service calculations. So many different things that help us all just expand the work we're doing. So we're going to start by having everyone stand up. We're going to do a 4 corners exercise, and we're not actually going to use the back 2 corners. We're going to have 1 corner here, 1 here, and then sort of halfway down at this pole here and maybe by where the coffee is over there so that we can run through this quickly. And this is when you should be looking around and seeing who's at what corner and who you want to stalk down later and talk to because they're doing something that you want to be doing or something that you want to expand. And we're going to have Igor and these 3 folks at each corner. So we may have, if there's a ton of people at one of the corners that's like the other corner, we may ask you to shout out some of what your other is. So to start out, we're going to have everyone stand up and go to a corner based on what type of system you're using to track your trees. At this corner over here, we're going to have Salesforce, so non-geospatial database. At this corner over here, we're going to have geospatial databases, so that's Planet Geo or Davy Treekeeper. In the back where Torin is, we are going to have fully customized databases. And then back where Rachel is, we're going to have folks who are using Google Tools, Access, Excel, that sort of thing. So if you want to split out.
So I'm Salesforce.
And if you use multiple, just pick your favorite. All right, has everyone sort of gotten to where they feel like they want to be? So for the folks who are online and can't see us, we have a large chunk in the geospatial systems. How many folks? There's a pretty big chunk in the back using Excel, Google Tools, that sort of work, and then slightly smaller but still nice sizes using fully customized databases and Salesforce. Cool.
Cool.
Awesome. So take a look around. See if there's someone you want to find later and talk to. The next one that we're going to do is only going to have 3 corners. And we are going to ask you to go to the corner based on what tracking system you use for people. So not trees, but people relationships. This corner over here is going to stay Salesforce. This corner over here is going to be Excel. And then in the back in the middle is other. So.
Salesforce is doing well.
All right. Salesforce. Salesforce, Excel, other. All right. Does everyone feel like they're where they're meant to be? So it seems like Excel has got a pretty big group, but Salesforce and other do as well. Rachel, do you want to have a few people who are in the other group just quickly say what they're using for other?
We use SurveyMonkey, or not SurveyMonkey, MailChimp. MailChimp. Yeah.
Maybe two more?
We started tracking donors through Bloomerang.
Anyone else? No? Okay, great. Thank you, guys. And we're going to do one last one. The last one we want to do is how comfortable are you using the systems that you use? So over in this corner, we're going to have either you don't have a system or you're not at all comfortable. Over here, we're going to have you're just getting into it. You could maybe kind of teach someone else how to use it, but you're not quite at the teaching other people stage. Back here on my left, we're going to have pretty comfortable. You know that you can't quite do everything in the system, but you could solidly teach someone how to use it. And then back here on my right, we're going to have very comfortable and or well supported internally. So you're a pro, you could teach everyone how to do everything.
Where's the no nothing?
No, nothing. Over here.
I have to do it. You're with me. Woo! All of the don't know how to do it. Hashtag no clue.
Whatever
Or
system,
hashtag don't have
the
it.
systems
That's the
that
other
we
one.
use.
Hashtag clue out. That's already said. Ooh, that's a good one. Hashtag tooleless and clueless. That's good. That is good.
All right. So it seems like we've got probably the most people in the pretty comfortable, could train other people, but still don't know how to do everything yet. And then kind of an even split between the still learning everything and super pros. And then the just getting into it is just a little bit above pretty comfortable. Awesome. Okay, thank you guys. That's the last one that we're doing. So if you want to take your seats again, we just wanted to post lunch, get you guys up on your feet a little bit, and really visually represent where we all are as a group.
That same email that we got that we
Yes, we're going to talk about that.
okay, which was
I'll let you guys do it.
give me a measuring tape and a tape.
Okay, thank you guys. So what we're going to do next is we did send out a survey to get a sense of where everyone is well. We wanted to do the four corners to sort of give you all a visual representation and to help you see, again, who you may want to talk to later. But I'm going to go through pretty quickly the survey results that we got from the survey that we sent out. It doesn't represent as many people as in the room right now. We got 16 responses, so keep that in mind. But we're going to go through those responses. And it was a pretty wide spread of different organizations of folks who responded. And then Kalli, Torin, and Rachel are each going to talk through the systems that they use. And then at the end, we'll do a question and answer time. So we're not going to be taking any questions until the end. So in terms of the survey responses, we split it up between trees and people and relationships. We really felt like those were two distinct types of systems that folks were using. So in terms of trees, we asked just to start, like, do you use a tree tracking system? And a vast majority of folks who answered did. Almost 90% use some sort of a system. Down here, we've broken up which system folks are using, and it's 25% said they used Salesforce, 25% said they used Excel spreadsheets. So that's how those percentages track out. So there's a pretty wide range in terms of what types of systems folks were using to track their trees, everything from Planet Geo, JB Treekeeper, Google Docs, Salesforce, and there was some other in there as well. And interestingly, in general, everyone felt pretty comfortable using those systems. We asked people to rate how comfortable they felt on a 1 through 5 system, and like 90+% of people put a 4 or a 5. So it seemed like people were using a ton of different systems, but felt really good using them. In terms of what they would need to feel more comfortable, on the tree side, people talked about wanting more automation in their systems, wanting it to be more closely connected to cities, and then needing more time and capacity to really properly train their staff to be able to fully use the systems. And then in terms of tracking relationships, so volunteers, donors, those sorts of things, we still had a majority of people who were using a system, although it was fewer people than were tracking their trees. It was 75%, although there was 6.3% of people in the process of developing a system. There was much less range in what people were using to track relationships. Basically, 100% of people said Salesforce or Excel, and then there was a few people who said one of those two and another system, like Boomerang or MailChimp, that sort of thing. But those are really the only two ways people were tracking relationships, and there was a much wider range of how comfortable people felt. On that same 1 through 5 scale, 40% of people put 2 or 3 of how comfortable they felt, and it was like 60% that put 4 or 5. So in terms of tracking relationships, people weren't quite as comfortable in how they were doing that. And then for these systems, to feel more comfortable using those systems, again, more training for both staff and those doing fundraising was one that came up. Larger scale adoption of the system within the organization was another thing that came up in terms of what people need to be more comfortable. And then more funding to manage the system and being able to increase the perceived value of using the system, getting people on board with why they should be putting the time and effort into using the system were what folks said would be most helpful. We also, in the survey, asked how much people were spending on their systems. We thought that would be interesting to see. The majority of people are spending less than $1,000 a year on their systems, so it's not in the grand scheme of things. Something that they're putting huge sums of money towards. No one spent more than $50,000 a year, but there was 20% in the 10 to 5, and then in the 10 to 20, and then in the 1,000 to 5,000. So we thought that was interesting. There is a split in what resources, monetary resources, folks are putting into these systems. In terms of how we're tracking our trees, we wanted to see what people were currently doing and what people wanted to do in the future. And it was really interesting. It sort of split out in terms of what we're tracking now are like very physical day-to-day things. We're tracking the trees we plant. We're tracking maintenance. We're doing grant reporting. We're using it to help locate where we're going to plant trees. And then the things that people were wanting to use to do in the future are some of that bigger picture storytelling of what we're doing, what impact we're having. So coordinating between sectors, but also getting that regional inventory, telling the whole story of all the trees, being able to integrate data. So some of that, bringing different pieces together, which is interesting. And then ecosystems service calculation was like split 50-50, which I thought was really interesting too. In terms of how we track the relationships and constituents, it seems like these systems, by and large, people were using them the way they wanted to. Leading conversations and sending some stewardship reminders were ways in which some folks wanted to expand. But tracking volunteers, most people were using the systems to do that already. So it seems like these systems were being fully utilized in terms of people's feelings about them. And then the last thing that we asked in the survey is we wanted to get an idea of where to go. Where do we go from here? These are super useful. People are starting to use them, but what else do we need? And A majority of people felt like the system that they had was really good. They just weren't fully utilizing it. They needed to take that extra step to be able to track more, to be able to track better, to expand it within their organization. And then, a small 14% wanted to get a new system. And then there was almost 30% that were solidly set with what they had. So that's sort of where we stand as a group on that. And now we're going to switch over, and Kalli is going to talk about the system that she's using.
Hey guys, how we feeling? Good after the whole lunch and everything? Yeah? Cool. Well, my name is Kalli Legakes. I am the founder and director of Imperial Valley Urban Forest. I'll tell you a little more about that. So Imperial Valley Urban Forest is a group that was based out of 3 CAL FIRE grants. So we have 3 major sources of funding. The first one is Imperial Valley Urban Forest. It is a public tree planting program for 1,400 trees across the county. And then we have the El Centro Free Trees program, which is 1,000 privately planted trees in residential areas. And our last one is Imperial Valley Urban Forest Inventory Program, which is a comprehensive inventory program to survey the entire county with trees that have already been planted and will be planted in the future. So kind of to understand why we chose Planet Geo as our tracking program, I want you to understand the demographics of the area we're working in. So El Centro is a farming-based industrial area. It's in the desert region, and we have temperatures that are in the 120s during the summer. So we're working with a lot of different issues. As you can see right here, we're highly disadvantaged. We're bordering the Mexicali area, meaning we have high pollution from not only ag, but also from Mexicali. We have high unemployment, not a lot of education for urban forestry or anything environmental for that matter. So when looking at a program, my big thing was I wanted to find a program that had a huge environmental base to it. I wanted something that the mass public could look at, understand, and be comfortable using. They could see something and go, okay, I understand why I'm planting this tree and why it's benefiting my community. What benefit is it giving me, to my neighbor, and to the county as a whole? Okay, so more on that. When I looked at it, as I mentioned, I have a few necessities, things that were non-negotiable. I said I need these things in the program that I select. And I did look at a few different programs during this process. So as you can see, they're kind of listed out there. Main ones would be the geographic location, and that's largely not only for tracking purposes, but also because of, am I super loud? Am I blowing your guys' eardrums? Yeah, maybe. Yeah. He's like, yeah, well, I can't reach it because I'm so short. Oh, okay. He's been telling us eat the mic the whole day, and now I'm too loud. Okay. I get it. All right, I get it. Okay, so the first thing would be the geographic location of the tree. So we want to make sure that we can track the tree and we can see exactly where it's planted and come back a week, a month, a year, 5, 10 years later and check on that specific tree that was planted. So that was number 1. We also want the tree stats, the greenhouse gas benefits, obviously for CAL FIRE recording purposes. Maintenance notes, we wanted a public place where people that don't really know much about the program but want to see what it looks like, be able to track the tree and look at it, can see. And then we also wanted a private interface where I can go in and put maintenance notes and talk to the city crews, that sort of thing. We also wanted it to be aesthetically appealing, so we wanted something that we could even use it in like an elementary school, right? So we can walk in and say, this is our program, look at all the cool trees, look at all the dots, and we can point to the benefits of it. Yeah, and in the future, so growing with this program, our first grant is, as I mentioned, the public tree planting. So moving forward, we go into private planting, and we will need additional add-ons. So Planet Geo, for us, was able to give us those add-ons at obviously an additional cost, but it's something they can build into the platform, which was very important to us. So as you can see here, we need more detailed stats. We need the monetary value of the tree. We need the ability to submit questions, and we want a place and a space for community members and residents to log on and be able to ask us questions, request trees, request more information, whatever it could be. And Planet Geo was able to offer us that interface. And then in the future, looking maybe 5 years down the road, we'd like it to be, quite frankly, more like Salesforce, a little more intense where we can respond to residents and we can have things a little more automated than they are right now because we are still pretty small. Okay, so this is a screenshot of what Planet Geo looks like. So our map, Imperial Valley Urban Forest, this is just kind of a small snapshot of what we're doing. You can see all the trees we planted so far. The dots indicate different species. And when you click on one of the dots, so this is Meserve Park in Brawley, California. And apparently we have an old city manager in here from Brawley. There he is. So Brawley, California, very small city in the county. Yes. Very small city in the county, Meserve Park. These are trees that were planted in April. And you can see we planted 2 different species, California pepper, and I'm not sure what the other species was. But tree number 443 is right there. And you can see the photo of it. You can see the notes. And as I mentioned, it's very basic. So they're not extensive notes where you're doing anything more than really just measuring the tree itself and giving a snapshot of what the benefit and what it's looking like right now. So if you go into the closed off portion of the program, you can get different reports. This is something that I thought was really useful, and especially as I mentioned for CAL FIRE reporting. We can log in here and we can get printed out Excel spreadsheets where it shows us all the trees that are planted, their geographic location, and their benefit. That's just kind of a little snapshot of that. And as you can see, we really like Indian rosewood in the valley. So more information on the program. So as I mentioned, this is the public tree planting program. It's largely education-based, tracking, and obviously planting. And so like I mentioned, education was a huge reason for why we chose this program. And yeah, a few more. Okay, so I think I'm all out on time. So thank you all for listening. And now we have our next speaker, Rachel. Come on up. We have questions at the end.
Thank you so much, Kalli. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel O'Leary. I'm here mostly to tell you a story of failure, but lately of one of success through customization of software. So City Plants, I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about our program and how we're structured. But it's very important to note that we're actually funded by the Department of Water and Power largely. So our focus in choosing a software and building a customized software was driven by our funder, wanting to make sure that we could report energy efficiency calculations for the city of Los Angeles and for all of the trees that we plant. So that was kind of our main criteria heading into this process. A little bit about our program. The city plant staff is actually just 3 people sitting behind desks at City Hall. Jimmy and Elizabeth are here. We do occasionally get out in the field, but we get to work day in and day out with amazing nonprofit partners, the boots on the ground that do all of the hard work of planting trees and distributing those trees and delivering them. And some of those folks are here today as well, including Clarissa. So we have a yard tree delivery program run by the LA Conservation Corps. We have a nursery out of Griffith Park, and they actually have 2 City Plants trucks, and they deliver up to 7 free shade trees straight to your door if you order them online. We have a yard tree adoption program where our nonprofit partners will go and set up shop at community events, farmers markets, festivals, and you can take home trees, shade trees to plant in your private property on the spot. And then we also have a street tree program. We plant about 4,000 street trees a year and maintain many of those trees through outside funding. And I'm going to be talking about a customized software that addresses our residential program. 90% of LA's urban forest is on private property. So we wanted to start tackling that residential side. We are on the cusp in Los Angeles. There's been a lot of great momentum. We're on the cusp of working hand in hand with the City of LA and the Urban Forestry Division and Bureau of Street Services to purchase an inventory software and build out a full-blown city plant street tree management program that feeds into a larger city inventory. So we, after about 1.5 years of discussions, have started to get that momentum going. We also have a block leader program currently underutilized, but if there's any active Angelino who wants to get trees on their whole block, we have a toolkit online that they can download and go door to door to get folks to sign up to get trees on their whole block. And then we do community tree planting events like many of you, I imagine. So the yard tree delivery program, this is what we had our software customized around. Constituents can order up to 7 free shade trees delivered straight to their door. They can order those online or call our office and talk to Jimmy in the back there. And they can choose from over 20 different water efficient species that we offer. And these are trees specifically for private property. And our turnaround time is generally 2 to 3 weeks, although since we've been implementing this software, we have run into a backlog, and we're trying to figure out how to tackle that backlog. And that's actually run by the LA Conservation Corps. Our yard tree adoption program, similar deal. We want to give residents of Los Angeles shade trees to plant on private property and track the energy efficiency of the adjacent building there. So you can come to a farmer's market, a Home Depot event. We set up shop all around the city in each of its 15 council districts and distribute trees. And we get to work with all of these partners that are out in the field doing that. Northeast Trees, KYCC, Tree People, Cleaner Greener East LA. All of you guys are here today. So the software, the custom-made software. You can read the URL there, but it says freetreesla.com. You can actually go. So we have constituent registration, where I'll show you the online portal where Angelinos can register and sign up for free trees to be delivered. And then our partners get to use, at their adoption events, versions to sign up folks for trees as well. And then the two in the center are for internal office use. We get to, password protected, we get to look at the back-end data and manage that. So this is the first portal where Angelinos can sign up for trees. You enter information about what type of AC you have, when your property was built. You get taken to a map of your house, and we encourage you to outline your home or building so we can start to get those algorithms calculating energy efficiency. You get to go shopping for trees. This is the fun part, where you get to choose from our list of species that you want. And then you get to place the tree where you want to plant it on your property. And the coolest part about this, and this took quite a long time to figure out how to do, but we give you recommended planting distance of that species from the house, and then current distance according to where you dropped it. And then we make sure you confirm, is this where you want to plant your tree? And it actually kicks out estimated energy savings right on the spot for you, which is pretty advanced. And then you get an email. And we actually took this tip from the Sacramento Tree Foundation, followed their lead. And it's basically regularly scheduled emails. Once you confirm that a tree is delivered, regularly scheduled emails that give you tree tips and follow up on that stewardship care. So I'm out of time. I'd like to introduce the one and only Torin from the Sacramento Tree Foundation.
Thanks. So actually this panel came as a conversation that Cindy and I were having about, how great it is to have these retreats, but that, these fundamental things like databases are things that we should know better about each other. And so Cindy then called me up 2 months later and said, so you're giving a talk about databases and it'll be right after lunch. And I said, what did I do to you? So thanks, Cindy. I'm very excited about this stuff, and I participate with our database at Sacramento Tree Foundation, which is Salesforce. Also, I participated with our database when I was working at Tree People, and so I definitely have a sense for the choices that you need to make early, and then you can kind of go gangbusters. And just having patience with it is something I encourage everyone. So SacTree's been around for 35 years, and we have a wide range of programming that focuses on engaging Sacramentans. So our Sacramento Shade program is our largest program. We distribute 10,000 trees a year to 3,500 homes annually. We also have a volunteer program where we have about 2,000 people volunteering with us every year. We have our Neighborhoods program, which I talked about earlier, which focuses on under-canopied communities. We also have a fundraising program, and we also have a variety of other ways that we can interact with people: workshops, tours, newsletters, social media, et cetera. And so a primary goal in our database system is making sure that that lattice work of programming, we can use that to understand people better. And so having, back in the day, a variety of systems, like an Excel spreadsheet over here, an Access database over there, we couldn't figure out what one person was doing in a multi-universe for us. And so, we really wanted to jump into Salesforce to be able to do that and start to deepen engagement by connecting with them based around that concept. But with Salesforce, the first step you always take is, what's my big thing? And I'm going to build around that first, and I'm going to try to shoehorn the other things in there. And so for us, Sacramento Shade is one of our largest programs, and Sac Shade, just briefly, is powered by SMUD, Sacramento Municipal Utility District. It's been funded for us to do the work since 1990. We have 10 staff focused on that one program alone. So, and the way it works is every day we have 5 staff going out to people's homes, assessing their property in conversation with them, deciding, or recommending where a tree would be planted, what type of tree to plant. We'll do up to 10 trees per home to start with. 2 staff are back at the office just calling people to schedule appointments with them. And then we have 2 more staff, they're driving around the city dropping off trees. So it's a lot of infrastructure that's going into that, and it's all powered by Salesforce. So, here's how our iteration works. So we have 2 custom objects. So tree location is something that we created. You wouldn't just put a house, right? Because somebody's gonna move and that tree needs to stay where it is. So we created this custom object of tree location. Under the tree location is our custom object, the tree. So tree number 1100 is the record, and I'll show you a tree record in a moment. The other way it works is when somebody is interested in the program, SMUD will maybe bug them and then send their name to us. They are a lead. So our coworkers, our community forestry associates will call them up and try to schedule an appointment with them. Once they're ready to have that appointment, they become a contact. So that's really, Salesforce is a sales system. That was the original concept behind it. And so conversion of lead to contact then allows us to look at that person, and then, so those arrows are representing all the intersections of what's going on. So a contact is related to their tree and their tree location, and they can also be related to a campaign. So a volunteer event, a workshop that they showed up to, a fundraising campaign, things like that. And so basically, that's in a nutshell how it all comes together for us in Salesforce. By relating all these things together, we can encourage somebody who received a tree from us to go to a volunteer event. We can encourage a volunteer to hook us up with some cash. We can have somebody who went to a workshop, be encouraged to receive a tree from us. So here's some fun ways that we've been able to utilize that stable platform for ourselves. And I'm saying that with a little bit of tongue in cheek because it is very difficult at times. But some of the great tools that we've had, Rachel alluded to this. So once someone receives a tree from us, so basically, we put the tree in the system, the tree then ends up being noted as being planted or delivered. They start to receive automated emails that say, hey, it's been 2 months. Are you doing a good job watering your tree? It's been 4 months. Call us if you have any questions. Happy birth to your tree. Please send us a picture of your tree. And that's really cute, the responses that we get to this stuff. And certainly we believe that this is really growing the tree survivorship rates for us, which is super, super important to us. Another key element for us was to add data that we were having to crunch outside of our system into our system. Salesforce, you can do pretty much anything you imagine with it. So we took, this is a tree species record. So it's a Chinese pistache. We have various different elements in here. And here's where it gets really exciting. We got sick of going to iTree. So we just took everything from iTree. So every tree we plant, we took its data sets. So it's carbon sequestered data, about 10 metric tons, and then all of its potential orientation avoided outcomes. So based on where you plant a tree to the house, 20 feet to the east side, it's going to have a specific carbon avoided metric ton outcome. And so now we can look and say, okay, any tree, any pistache that's planted less than 19 feet away on the north side is going to have this outcome. So when I need to do my quarterly CAL FIRE report, I just click a button, which is pretty great for us. As well, we can just continually in real time stay up to date with how we're doing with our distributions. And so here we have a pie chart that just lives on our dashboard telling us how well we're doing with our distribution. We don't want to cross the 10% threshold. We could put an alert in here if we started to see that happen. We could maybe zap one of our staff if they were responsible for doing that. And then, what's going on with carbon? 38%, Quercus lobata. It is so much better. A valley oak is 1,000 times better at carbon than a crepe myrtle. It's insane. So stop planting crepe myrtles. And then the other element that we're really critically getting into with our Salesforce iteration is monitoring. So this is a tree record, an individual tree record. So it's a Chinese pistache again that Susanna on our team cited. It's in South Sacramento. It was planted on the front of the house at a southwest orientation to the home. And so for our CAL FIRE grant, we work with the Sacramento Regional Conservation Corps to monitor trees. And so they will go out every quarter and look and see how the tree is doing and note, what its DVH has grown to, what its height is, and then what its tree condition is. And so we can look and say, oh gosh, we see this person's tree is now doing poorly. Let's call them up. Let's task ourselves with a call and say, how can we help? What do you need? Let us know. And so, these are all great steps to take forward. Some of them you have to prioritize whether you're going to do it or not, but it's been a pretty tremendous thing for us to be able to do. So we've been fortunate to be able to utilize all these elements. It's been hard. It's taken us about 5 years, and every time a staff person changes, you have to really think about whether or not the system is supporting everyone as well. But really what I want to encourage is if you're thinking about doing any of these things or any of the things that Kalli or Rachel are talking about, talk to us if you're not doing it yet. Or if you have good ideas for us, let's connect about that, because it really is a rising tide lifts all ships type of situation when it comes to databases. They're not everybody's favorite thing. For us it is, but they can, for us, it's been a tremendous lift for our work. So thank you.
Great, thank you guys so much. So tall. So it sounds like we've got about 15 minutes to do questions. Really quickly to start it off, I'm going to ask each of the panelists to first tell us what their biggest gain was from implementing these systems. And I think I'm going to combine it, and also tell us what your biggest challenge was, and then we'll turn it over to questions that you all have. You want to start, Rach?
So our biggest gain was definitely getting that energy. Eat that?
Yeah, these mics you have to eat. The one out there, you're okay.
Our biggest gain, can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
Sure.
Our biggest gain was that energy efficiency calculation portion. Previously, city plans had to hire a person specifically to manually enter all of the data into the U.S. Forest Carbon Calculator. And this completely helped with that. And we're able to report that energy efficiency to our funder every 2 years when we need to report it. And that's huge for us. It saves us a lot of time. I think it also helped so much with the tree stewardship aspect. One of our fears in serving a city as large as Los Angeles is how do we access all of the individual constituents that get trees from us, and how do we make sure that they are actually following up with that tree care? So because of the inspiration of Sacramento Tree Foundation, we were able to take their model and kind of adapt it to LA in a way that made sense with those automated emails, and following just kind of touch points for those constituents on tree care and aftercare, especially during that establishment period. The data reports are lovely for invoicing reasons. That helps. And then you can actually track your program reach and success based on marketing campaigns. So we've piloted a marketing campaign for our residential program, and we're able to see the results online of people who actually signed up for trees and the conversion of ads to clicks on trees and getting the message out there, which is really powerful.
So for Ivy Urban Forest, a benefit of using the system that we have right now would definitely be obviously the visual aspect of it. It's easy to educate people and to teach even high schoolers, elementary kids, why they're using the program and kind of how to even look at trees and input them. It's very, very user-friendly. So that's definitely the biggest benefit for us. Also reporting, it makes it very easy to pull your reports for CAL FIRE purposes and really any other kind of information that you need. The reports are very easy to pull. A challenge for us currently is the specific geolocation. So the program's good, but it's not as accurate as I'd like it to be. So if you're using just like your tablet and you're in the field, you usually need another system. Like there's a few different ones that you can use, but it's like basically I don't know what the technical term is, but like a geolocator, and it Wi-Fi's with your tablet and makes it as accurate as possible. And so it's just an extra step that we've had to use. That's been our biggest challenge. And then looking forward, how we're going to build in a few other aspects that will be needed, kind of like my partners here talked about, just to kind of make it more extensive and all-encompassing for the next programs.
I think largely the advantage is automating our process. So it's just that a person's name gets created as a lead, and so our community forestry associates are tasked with contacting them. They can record that interaction. Once they're converted, the appointments are made, and our staff can just jump in and know what their day is going to look like. And then the folks that are doing deliveries, they just have it all set up. And so I just think it's totally changed the way that we go about doing our work. There's just a lot more seamlessness. And also even, helping staff understand, okay, what is our inventory right now? What do we need to make sure is happening here? And how am I doing on targets and things like that?
Didn't touch on challenges. I got some of those. Can I? Yeah. The lack of training and implementation. I was the one person in our office who could train all of our nonprofit partners, which they all have multiple crews. So we had one training session, which really was not sufficient. And I also have so many other aspects of my job. We're all in the nonprofit field, so I'm sure we know. But I wasn't the designated data czar. If you can afford and to appoint one person as a specific data czar, I would really encourage that to help with that training portion. The data loss side of things, we had lots of data that was lost in the system, and we couldn't find it. We had to recover that. That was a very difficult process. And then customizing with shifting program needs. The program was shifting, and we were customizing simultaneously, so it was very hard we'd have to backtrack. We would have our software developer customize something and realize it wasn't fitting with what was actually being done in the field. So that game of playing catch up with customization and shifting needs was very difficult too. So map what you want ahead of time. That's my advice. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say I think a challenge for us recently has been we did have a Salesforce czar, Colleen Cadwallader, who was our Debbie director, really was the database guru for the organization, and everything that you see she created. And when she left, it was a really frightening experience for us to figure out what to do. And I'm relatively knowledgeable about Salesforce, but not to her level. And so just that sort of insecurity of what's going to happen next has been, it's led to some surprises. What our solution has actually been, counter to what Rachel is saying, is we have a committee. We are a larger organization, and so we were able to bring staff in who represent different elements of our work and make sure that everybody's happy and working together on creating solutions. Although when something breaks, it's really kind of who wants to pick up that thing and fix it. So luckily I get to tell them what they do.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Does anyone have questions? We want to start with the one question that was paused from earlier? No. All right. Anyone else have a question?
I have several questions. Quick. First of all, to double check, you provide trees for residents for free, right?
Yep.
Second, how much is the software?
Yep.
Third one, how much does it cost with all staff visits, everything, per 1 metric ton? Can you evaluate that? The system, the management, the inspection, it's stuff going, I realize, going to the spot. Okay, now, and one more thing, I didn't get, Excel also allows that, as well as Salesforce. That's a special program from Excel.
So some people are using Excel to store the data.
I see. And finally, one point, I think Kalli mentioned a problem with the coordinates of the trees, right? To get them exact. Well, Amelia and Chuck know I can share some experience about that. Cell phone may give 50 feet error. I can tell you, and that stems still from some of their recipes, tell you how to reduce it to 5 feet.
Yep. We spend, a user license, I think Salesforce can be free. There's a nonprofit starter pack. But once you break over a certain level of people using it, you want user licenses, you start to pay, and I think it's like $250 a person per year. And I think we spend, and then paying people to help you fix things when they break or build the thing you need. So we spend on average $12,000 a year on Salesforce. No, not for us. No, this would be staff.
So the question was, does a resident count as a user? And the answer is no.
Correct. Right.
What about this staff?
What is how much time do your staff spend on Salesforce? What would that cost be?
I mean, so if you're asking what does it cost us to do the work that we do, I mean, I think we average, it's about $100 a tree in total, all things, for the SMUD program. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. But I can tell you, if you put an equation in Salesforce, it'll let you know.
What period? $100 per year?
Yeah, per year. Well, per tree total. Yeah, yeah. I mean, we estimate that the average cost of a tree should be $325. That's what we charge in other programming. But for the Sac Shade program and the way we do the work, it's about $100.
Kalli, did you want to?
Go for it.
So for our program, it starts at a cost of about like $4,000, and then you add on different programs that you want. So our initial cost to build out the platform was about $4,000, $5,000, and now we're adding on different portions of it as we go on. So the way that I structured it with our grants is we have a portion that comes out of our grant money. So we paid for this upfront for the next 5 years. So once we hit that, closer to that 5-year limit, we'll look at, finding more funding to continue using the platform. But it starts at a cost of about $4,000 to $5,000. 4,000 to 5,000, 4,000 or 5,000.
Planet Geo.
Planet Geo, yeah.
Look,
No, it's for the $4,000 is for the startup of it. So it lasts for 3 years. And so we actually paid a little bit more to extend it to 5 years. And when you work with Planet Geo, you can select your payment process. So we decided to do that because we're grant-based and we have the funding right now. And as most of you know, being in nonprofits, when you're working with grants, if the money's there, you use it because you might lose it if you don't. So, yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the next question.
My question, maybe it's Planet Geo. I saw one photo with the from an aerial view, like a satellite photo. Is that Planet Geo? Where's that? How do you get that?
So that is Planet Geo. I think that was probably mine. Yeah, so that is Planet Geo. So that's what you actually see when you log in to our website. So right now it's blocked, so we're still building it. So we haven't made it public yet, but when we do make it public, that's what you'll see when you log in. And so what you'll be able to do is in Imperial County, there's 5 separate cities. So you'll be able to click on the individual city you'd like to see trees for. So when you initially log in, you'll see like one big dot for El Centro, and then Brawley, Calexico, Imperial, and Hopeville. And you'll collect on that, you'll touch on that individual dot, and then it'll pop up all the trees in that area. So that's like the loading screen, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Thank you. So, and how accurate, how up to date is that photo?
What was that?
How up to date is the photo? How often are they taken?
So
monthly,
you know what,
or yearly?
That's a great question.
They use Google Satellite.
Yeah, it uses Google Satellite, I'm assuming. So I can't really answer that. I can get back to you on that, but I don't know now.
So it actually says down at the bottom here what the year is of the Google data that they're using. So this is the map from
2019. There you go.
2019.
So these trees don't have to be entered individually. You can just see a photo of the tree, and then you can later on identify the tree. Is that how it works?
Is we have a contracting company. We have West Coast Arborist that comes out and plants the actual trees for us. And then within a week, we have either myself or someone else on our team will come out and they will record the tree. So we'll take the photo ourselves and we'll measure it and check it to make sure that it was planted properly, make any notes of any issues, any possible issues we might have, and then input that. And then West Coast Arborist, we give them access to it so they can check it. So that's how we kind of do quality assurance on that.
So we're in West Hollywood, and West Coast Arborist is our tree. They maintain our trees as well. And I know they keep track of, for us to know how many trees we have. West Coast Arborist has the answer for us. So in other words, they could enter this into Geo. What's it called again?
Planet Geo.
Planet Geo. I'm going to write this down. And I see. Thank you very much. That's very interesting.
And that might be a question that you'd have to ask West Coast Arborist specifically. In my experience, that was kind of part of our contract and our negotiation was that we chose to use Planet Geo rather than a different platform. And so West Coast Arborist material had to be incorporated in the platform that we chose. So that's something that you would probably have to discuss with them.
So I think we have time for 2 more quick questions.
A couple more. So
Okay.
I'll go one. Hands up. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, let's go. We're going to be efficient.
This question is for Torin, Sacramento. How do you guys deal with stump removal in Sacramento when a resident says, okay, we want 10 trees, but there's a stump in the front that we want removed, or a tree that's obviously falling over? How do you guys deal with that?
So, I mean, in terms of the database, I do want to just share one wrinkle, right? We don't know what the reality becomes over time, and so knowing, what's there is about self-reporting. So when somebody calls us up and says, like, I would like to have a tree removed and then plant a tree, we work with them, to discuss, okay, well, it's going to be 3 years for you to get that spot back to where it can be, but we'll come and plant nearby. And we can actually basically take their interest and just we'll keep the tree on hold until that time elapses, or they call us back up and say it's been 3 years. So we do have a small process for that. We actually, just on stump removal, it's something that we've been experimenting with the city of Rancho Cordova, which is in Sacramento County. They're very progressive, and they have started to do stump removal on behalf of community members, and will then also pay to have 2 trees replanted in that location, which is pretty tremendous. We're looking to do that in other under-canopied neighborhoods, because typically it's a blight issue to begin with, and it's a trust issue with folks. So I think it's something we all should really focus on more, is talking about when trees, dead trees are standing or stumps are still there, what we can do to improve the community.
To add to that, the city of Rancho Cordova, they pay their contractors $600 per stump to be removed.
Thanks.
And they feel very strongly that this is a very positive thing for the community as a whole. But it's positive because they work hand in hand with the Sacramento Tree Foundation to have a replacement tree. And most of these trees are on corner lots, so it's a bigger bang for the buck, so to speak. So, not a question, but a comment. I was just on a iTree conference call this morning, and I was reminded that iTree, you can drop your database into iTree Eco and come up with all the benefits. Torin mentioned there probably was frustration a couple of years ago with iTree, but it's easy now, and it'll line everything up.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for sure. Thanks.
Okay, hands back up. Okay, good.
When you're talking about doing a GPS enhancer, the tool is called Bad Elf, and it is a Bluetooth attachment. It operates by Bluetooth, and it will connect with your iPad, and it will increase your accuracy of your GPS locations to about between 7 and 10 feet, which is pretty good.
Yeah, and I know about that program, actually. I wasn't sure if it was Evil Elf or Bad Elf. I didn't want to say, and I'm like, is that really the name of it? I couldn't remember, so yeah, thank you.
I know all of you distribute your trees at no cost, but I'm curious of what size of trees that you're providing for free. Does that come with the stakes and the ties? And do you have your own nursery? I know you do DWP, or do you contract grow? And the quality control of this, keeping trees in small containers for very long creates problems. So I'm curious about quality control, as well as you grow your own trees, and what cost do you incur to provide those trees for free?
So for the Sacramento Shade Program, when we're planting on private property, we do number 5s, which I think some people call 5 gallons. So the smaller trees, much easier to deliver, and we feel like you're doing a better service to the tree by giving it in the ground at a younger age. We also give them stakes and just simple ribbon ties that they get dropped off with the tree. When we do plant in public locations, we will plant number 15s, just because they can stand up better to a soccer ball. We find the cost, so we work with wholesale nurseries. We go out to bid at the beginning of a contract program, so our contract's 4 years long with SMUD. So we went out to bid just now and have 5 nurseries, I think, that we work with. And if they can't provide us a tree that we were hoping to have, we have 35 different types of trees we'll do. Then we'll go, to Green Acres or something like that if we have to. Our cost ends up being on average $22 for a number 5 and $55 for a number 15. Our nursery manager has great relationship skills. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say for Los Angeles, it's almost exactly the same. Our nursery in Griffith Park is more of a holding house for the trees that we get from other nurseries, but we have just started talking about entering into a contract grow because we do plant about 15 to 20,000 trees in Los Angeles, street trees and private property trees every year. So we really want to make sure we're getting good stock. And we do have an inspector who kind of plays the pivotal bottleneck quality control role within the City Plants partnership. Yeah. Very similar price points to Torin. Mm-hmm.
And for our program, so we are still getting off the ground with it. So we're still working on logistics. We haven't quite decided how we're going to go about it, but right now it looks like we'll have a lot. We're going to build a lot in El Centro. There's actually a lot of land for something like this. So we're going to build like our own kind of nursery and then import wholesale, most likely, the trees and then keep them in the yard. And we're actually doing 15-gallon trees. So we're trying to figure out whether or not we want the residents to plant those trees themselves or if we want to find a contractor to come in and plant the trees. But there are a lot of, logistics we have to work through on that. So I'm still looking for good ideas. If anybody has any, let me know.
Two questions. One is, can any of these databases do they need to be adapted to keep track of existing trees? And what would you have to tweak for that? The environmental benefits. I don't know if it would automatically calculate based on the size that you input. And the second question is, I heard recently from the U.S. Forest Service and actually read, if you can believe it, an article in Fast Company about the health benefits of planting trees, saying that for every dollar invested, you gain $6 in benefits. So do any of the databases either include that, or can you calculate that in so that you can report to your municipalities on the health benefits?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think public health is definitely the frontier of urban forestry, and I'm really excited to start seeing that integrated into some of these software options that are available to us. Your first part of the question, I think it's great. LA is on the cusp of something really significant right now. I was on a call yesterday with Streets LA, the Bureau of Street Services, and they're looking at purchasing a software, and we're working hand in hand with them. So there was a point in time where the nonprofit planting partners in Los Angeles were perhaps going to go off and purchase our own inventory software, our own management software. We realized how critical it is for us to work hand in hand with the city, and we want to make sure that we approach that together so that whatever we're doing as a nonprofit partnership feeds directly, ultimately, into a city inventory that collects all the other data about tree maintenance and urban forest health that we need to know as a city. So we're there. We're almost there.
So iTree, which is a tool that the Forest Service is built and Davey administers, does contain all the benefits that can be tracked right now. Public health itself, I think the math is still being figured out on, and they'll equate, but with all the benefits that you are seeing, so carbon is one, energy savings is another, rainwater infiltration, those are all tracked and then equated to dollar amounts. So if you, whatever you wanted to do, yes, a database could carry that for you. Custom systems, you can put it in there. iTree certainly can do it on its own in a variety of different ways, whether it's planning, tracking, or just assessing. And
iTree is free.
What's that?
iTree is
and it's free. Yeah, it's totally open software for sure. Yeah, and yes, absolutely. But that, our data is iTree data. We just took it out, right? So our database just got informed by iTree. Because we need to have it calculate everything that's happening all the time for us, rather than going and visiting iTree and just plopping our data into it.
Yeah,
it's
so
static,
you
basically.
can put stuff into iTree, but it's not necessarily just your information. Other people can put points in as well. So if you want to know exclusively what your organization is doing.
Yeah. The other thing, just real quick, Shelley, when we talk about the tree benefits, the typical thinking, the iTree thinking anyways, of the 40-year lifespan of the tree. And so thinking about what a mature tree is doing, you can, I guess, get some math out of that somehow. But typically we're thinking in just whole life benefits, as opposed to at this point in its life, or at this stage of its maturity. Some trees live to be 250 years old, so it would have much better benefits if you calculated it out to that point, or even, in various ways. So there's the way you look at data, you have to know how your comfort level with it. And so for us, we actually shifted our Sacramento Shade program recently. It used to be all about energy savings. And so we calculated energy savings. And it was a kind of an interesting number that had been developed by SMUD, and we would just crank out that number for them. We shifted, we were welcomed by them to shift, and we're basically passing up on critical opportunities to plant away from the home, not having to shade the home. And so they allowed us to open up that field, and we talked about all the different ways we could analyze that, or I guess quantify it. Can we talk about public health? Can we talk about all those other benefits? And we just said carbon is sort of representative of all things. So if you're doing well on carbon, if you're optimizing carbon, you're optimizing other benefits as well. But we also have to recognize that trees are not numbers, right? That people interact with them, they change lives. And so we have to challenge ourselves. We're dealing heavily in metrics, and we're talking about databases. But at the end of the day, we have to stress to our staff, let's go for our goals, but let's also, if somebody wants that crepe myrtle, and it's going to change their lives in a positive way, they're going to get the crepe myrtle,
So I think that we're out of time now. I know that there's lots of questions still. All of our contact information is up here. Please feel free to reach out to any of us. Like I said, we all sort of nerd out about this, and we'd love to talk to you more about it.